I'm a man who's lost his sanity!
Good tactical afternoon. I am a tactical laptop bag, and today marks the 17th and 18th weeks of development in Tactical Airsoft Training Simulator. I have kind of lost track of time and don't know what today is. This quarantine has been... I hate it. That's all I gotta say. I'm not enjoying it. I'd be enjoying it more if finals weren't a thing that happened or are happening. But yeah, that's happening, so things are slowing down a little bit. But I got a lot done in the past 2 weeks, and I am really happy with that. The first very, very big change that has happened this week, or these past 2 weeks, I should get used to saying, is that I have updated the SteamVR API in this game to the latest version. It took me a while to get to here, mainly because I was dumb and had directly modified all of the everything in SteamVR, and so in order to update it, I had to rewrite all of the code that I had modified into the SteamVR API, which was poor practice. And I learned how to separate some code and write my own scripts to replace the code that I had modified SteamVR with. Some of the code I had to keep modified, like the hand filtering, because of just the nature of the system. But thankfully, it's not as bad as it was before, and it will be a lot easier to update to SteamVR from now. I literally spent a full week just doing nothing but moving to SteamVR. I don't know what version this is, but it's got a lot of really good bug fixes and new features that are going to be very helpful and will actually help me get some different features in the future going, because the only thing stopping me was bugs in SteamVR. But now that they're fixed, I can get on with that. So, first thing that is notable about the new SteamVR changes is that now my hands are physics objects, just like in the lab. So now you can see I can slap this table, and it's like not letting my hand go through. And this will allow the player to be able to push things around with their physical hands. So if there's a soda can, you can knock it over with your hand, or you can just push it out of the way or something. I don't know. It's just fun to do. Let's see. That's about the only notable change with SteamVR, except for snap turning. Snap turning got put into the SteamVR API, and so it replaced the system I had, which was a little janky, especially with how I was handling the inputs, which is okay. The big problem right now is you can only snap turn left, because I just did not have time to look at SteamVR inputs and change the binding for snap turning left and right. So with the original snap turning system that I made, it was a single snap turn input, and it just detected which button you pushed it on, and then snap turn you in the direction of the hand. It's like if I clicked A on my left hand, it would just snap turn me to the left. If I clicked A on my right hand, it would snap turn me to the right. Pretty straightforward. Except you can't exactly do that with a thumbstick, which is the default input for Valve's built-in snap turning system. So I had to change that. I just simply didn't, and so now both A buttons are mapped to snap turn left. But yeah, it's you can hear the standard snap turning sound. It's got the little arrows, but they disappear instantly because of how fast I have the player snap turn. Because especially for a combat game, having having a little time to turn is going to be a little too much. So I made it instant, because that's how most games work. I forgot that I can't go right, so I just did a full circle again. Right, so the other big change I have done is I had looked at the distant hovering system that I had in place while writing the code, and went, you know what, this sucks. So, as I was working on this, or just before I got to the point I was working on this, it was the week after I had finished integrating the SteamVR changes, and I was starting to rewrite some of the systems. I had noticed that the developer for Hot Dogs, Horses, and Hand Grenades had actually put Half-Life Alyx styled distant grabbing into his game. And Half-Life Alyx, I tell you, has the best distant grabbing system I have ever seen put into a VR game. is absolutely beautiful. And I may or may not have copied them. So, let me turn off the camera real quick so you can see what I'm doing here. So, if I point my hand at the gun, you'll see this little red guy pop up, and you'll also see now it's gone because there's a bug where if you point another hand at it and then release, it'll go away, even though this hand's still pointing at it, like so. So, I gotta get that fixed. There's some janky stuff about this system still, but it still works. So, you can already tell that it's a lot easier to select this by pointing at it with like my finger. So yeah, I have finally gotten the direction put in correctly for how to draw the ray for finding distant objects. So like beforehand, it was really messy. What it was, it would just send a straight. Oh my gosh, there we go. It would send a straight line out from wherever it would. Actually, it would be the top of the controller right here, and it would send it in a direction I had predefined, which was very like approximately the direction the finger was pointing. And then once it hit a surface, it would check a sphere around that surface for any objects that could be distant grabbed. Now this was great, except for like if there's something in midair and you want to pull it towards you, like say you threw it and then realize you didn't want to throw it, you just pull it back to you. Problem with that is you have to be incredibly accurate with how you're pointing in order to get it to the point where you can distant grab it again and catch it and put it in your hand. The other thing was just like grabbing, like if you saw on my devlogs before where I would just be like talking and then like grab, like doing like a standard like gesture with my hand, and I would just all of a sudden just have an object in my hand. That was slightly annoying. So I have changed that up to now, you point at it, pull the trigger just like Half-Life Alyx, and then flick your hand. There you go. Only issue with this so far is, well, you've already seen that issue, that right there. And the second issue is you see how fast it comes to my hand and how fast I have to react. Now, because I wrote this system and because I am very accustomed to these controllers at this point, this is pretty easy for me. However, my friend came over one day because we were bored in quarantine and there's only 3 people in the house. So, that's legal. We did some playtesting, and I discovered that, especially for my friend who is not as experienced with the knuckles as I am, he still likes the wands better, he was having a lot of trouble just grabbing it out of the air like this. Like, he would be, like, trying to grab it, and then, like, use all of his force in his hand, like, even on the touchpad, to grab it out of the air. So sometimes what would end up happening is it would pick it up as a pinch pose, which in turn locks it to your hand like this. So he was like, "Ah, it's stuck to my hand!" Yeah, it was a little fun to watch, but a big note that I had to make. So we also messed around with the physics system while trying to think of how to fix this, and I realized that increasing the drag can decrease the speed a lot. And this works well, especially because of how I'm doing this. It's a single force or a single velocity change applied to this object here. So if I pull the trigger, now I am locked to this object. Somehow my other hand can still select it. And it waits for my hand on any 3 axes of rotation to move. At least I think it's 10 or 15 degrees. So I can even just twist my hand and it comes to me. Just like that. That way it's just like you can just flick it however you want and it still will come to you. But anyway, so then once it detects you flicking your hand, it will add a force that goes to your hand but also adds the opposite of gravity, like divided by 2 or something like that. It was some constant I had to put in there to make it feel really good. And you may notice that at further distances, this gets very difficult to catch out of the air because it's moving so fast, because you have to apply more force at the farther distance to get it to come to you. Let me just... I've done it before. Just like that. But yeah, you can see how difficult it gets at some distances. So what I need to do now is like track how long along the way it is to getting to your hand, and then it'll increase drag as it gets closer to your hand, so it slows down and you can catch it easier. I tried to like make a bigger collider that your hand can interact with, as it's being force grabbed, but that was unreliable and also just flat out didn't work sometimes. So I have resorted to, or I will resort to just increasing the drag and seeing if that works out. So yeah, that is the distant grabbing system. Oh, of course, I have to talk about this because I'm a nerd. The new way of how it figures out what is distant grabbable is a lot of geometry. So it casts a entire sphere basically instead of just a single line like it did before, and it'll check within that sphere if there are any objects that are grabbable. If there are multiple, like let me grab a couple of magazines. I actually have not tested to see how well this works, and my finger, gosh dang it. Okay, I'll grab a couple magazines here. Throw them down there. So you can see it's really easy to pick between the two because I'm just pointing at the different ones I want. And the way this works is I had to basically check which object is closest to a line that comes out from the same direction as the sphere. Now the problem with that was there's a lot more math involved in finding the closest point on a line in a direction by another point. It was a lot of complicated stuff. I ended up just going to Stack Overflow and copying some code. But it was it works very well, and I'm very pleased with that. So yeah. Oh, that's distant grabbing. Oh, one tiny thing I have changed is for two-handed gripping. You know, when you bring your hand closer to the gun, you don't automatically just grab the gun. That's just not how life works. You have to, you know, grab the grip of the gun. You have to, you know, grab the grip of the gun, like this. You can see, as you saw from the blooper, the slide has a much bigger interaction zone than it should. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. So now you have to grip, and actually you don't have to hold grip. You can just grip and then let go of your hand, and as long as your hand stays within the range, it'll be fine. So like I just brought my hand over here and finally got out. But it still has the filtering, and the filtering is toned down quite a bit from before, but it is still like slightly noticeable if you move your hand a lot, but it's not enough to affect like rapid changes in your aim, like having to whip around and then fire a couple of times. So that is tweaked there. Second thing that I have tweaked is the vest now locks at a higher, or not a lot higher. Would it be higher? I guess it would be at a higher rotation, so now it's a little bit easier to fiddle around with your vest and do things. Oh, and I know I said I would be getting like a lot more things done this week, such as labels on a soda can here, or a label that tells you, or a confirmation that tells you what you're about to spawn. See, the thing is, I wanted to like put a texture on this and wrap it around the cylinder here to make it so that, you know, it's really fancy. You know, you got a picture of your gun, you've got the text that says what the name of the gun is or whatever. I quickly learned that I am very new to Blender still, even though I have made this and the Masada, and the shotgun and literally every model except for the vending machine in this game. So I started taking a course with CG Boost, hashtag not sponsored, and they have actually, holy cow, I've learned so much about Blender from this little course that I've been doing over like the weekends, and I'm almost finished with it, and I had no idea I could create such freaking beautiful like models. Like, holy frick. A lot of it is just getting textures and bump maps and all that, but like once you have that, all you need is just the basic geometry and you're there, and it's absolutely freaking beautiful. And I am going to probably be remodeling things next month because my current focus is getting other things fixed up and getting some quality of life stuff going in. So yeah, that is the status on the labels on these guys. learning texture mapping and all that good stuff, and I will probably make a better soda can model because this is really janky. All right, time to go into the funny bugs that have happened. So, what was really interesting was, for whatever reason, Unity does not want to bake any mesh colliders anymore. So, so the consequence of this was soda cans would just start falling through the ground indefinitely. And I literally spent a good 3 days trying to fix this before realizing it was a mesh collider issue, and I have no idea how to fix that. So I had created a little capsule that is slightly shorter than the top of this, so that way and then also put a box collider on this, so that way it can still stand up and still be knocked around and roll like this. One other bug is with the HI-CAPA magazine. This guy has been the bane of my existence these past 2 weeks, and I have no idea why. If I pull out this guy, I'm doing that. Also, this is still a thing. I don't know what is going on. I pull this out. No, if I pull this out, okay, that worked. A second, insert it. Like usual. I have to use the palm of my hand now to wind the magazine. I don't know what's going on there. You can still use your index finger, but you can't use like what you used to be able to do to wind it, which I suppose that makes sense because in real life you would be doing one of these. Because of the weird mass issue that's going on with this, I don't know what is going on with all of it's really weird. I can't explain it because it's a feeling that you can only feel in VR with the way this thing moves. You might be able to see because my hand is staying in one position, I'm rotating, and it just does this weird positional thing. So yeah, it's the mass and geometry of this thing is very wrong, and the result of that is the rotation feels really weird whenever you have it shouldered. So I'm still working on that. But back to the HI-CAPA magazine, the thing that's been the bane of my existence. Sometimes it just gets stuck in the gun. During playtesting, my friend just stuck the magazine in, fired a couple rounds, and then tried to take it out, and it had the same physics issue that happened when the mid-cap magazine was not set to, or was set to the physics interaction thing that I had, while the HI-CAPA was not. The HI-CAPA is a physical object now, but for some reason, only the capsule collider or trigger actually on the bottom is colliding. And it's a trigger. It's not supposed to be able to do that. So I don't know how that happens, but oh well. I'm having to get a lot of things fixed with this guy eventually. But the second absolutely horrible issue with this guy is you put it in your pouch. Oh, cool. It works. Like usual. You take it out. It still works. You put it back in your pouch. All right, cool. It still works. Now you can't pull it out of your pouch. Now it's just stuck there for eternity. One bug I have fixed. This bug here is the only happening with the HI-CAPA magazines. But one bug that I have fixed is magazines in your vest will no longer interact with physics objects, so you can pass your guns and whatever through your vest and have no issues. The other thing is magazines can no longer be loaded from pouches. That was a weird bug that was in there, and I thought it would have more consequences than it did. Thankfully, it did not. I think that's the only bugs and features I have to talk about. So I will see you all next 2 weeks, and I hope you guys stay safe during this absolutely brutal quarantine. Happy shooting. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the biggest change I have made. Well, second biggest change. The biggest change being the SteamVR update. You can see how much. Oh no. So,